The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your qualified health provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk.
Welcome. This is Birth, Baby. Your hosts are Sierra Morgan and Samantha Kelly. Sierra is a birth doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant.
Samantha is a birth doula, childbirth educator, and lactation counselor. Join us as we guide you through your options for your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support. If you enjoy our content, please be sure to like, follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps us gain visibility to other people that could benefit from listening in. Hello, everyone. Today we are doing our birth doula stories. Instead of birth stories, somebody else edition. These are the doula stories of births we've attended. And so it's just Sam and I today. How are you, Sam?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to tell these because last of our stories, people were like, oh my God, that was so fun to listen to y'all's experiences. And then the last ones are like the long births. So we decided we're going to focus on the short births. And when we were discussing this a minute ago, like, what story should we tell today? We realized the stories that we both want to tell are people we've had two births with, either separately, like before we were ever partnered, or together in birth. And one of us was at one and one was at the other. So what one do you want to start with?
So I will tell, I'll go in order of how they happened. Okay. So,
and I feel like if we use first names, that's okay. Like we're not bound by HIPAA, guys. Okay. We're just going to use first names and, you guys will never know who we're talking about. So it's fine.
Yeah, that's great. So my first one, she was a repeat client. She was my client. My first birth with her was before Sierra and I were partnered. And then her second one, she hired both of us. And there was a lot of she really wasn't sure where she wanted to have her baby. You know, it was discussion of, well, maybe I want to go here, or maybe I want to have this baby at home, or like just a lot of back and forth. Her first birth had been a really long, really hard birth. I was actually the backup for her first birth, and she had only just hired her doula, and then her doula wasn't able to come. And so she didn't have a lot of education or preparedness beforehand. She was kind of going in blind, and she really felt it. She felt like she didn't know what things she could say yes to, which things she could say no to. And so going into her second one, she was like, I want to do it different. I want to be large and in charge. I want to be, I want to know all the things. I want to know what I can say yes and no to. And I want to go unmedicated, which was pretty big for her, coming from where she'd been the first time. And so, we had all of these conversations. I think even at 37 weeks, there was a discussion of, do I transfer to a home birth because the doctor I'm with isn't the best, but she was bound by insurance. There was all this stuff going on. And
we remembered she actually took my hypnobirthing classes this time around too. I forgot that she had done that.
Yeah. And she was just coming in with a totally fresh perspective, and it was really, really cool. And so I got to be the one who went to her second birth too, which I'm always excited when I get to go to somebody's second birth. It's just we're not necessarily going to special people, but a little bit sometimes we
can make it work.
If it's possible, yeah, exactly. So it just worked out that I was on call when she went into labor, but it was kind of a really weird labor pattern, which isn't all that uncommon for second baby. Sometimes it's start and stop, or is it or isn't it sort of a thing. And that's what was happening with her. She was very much I don't know if this is it. It doesn't feel like it did the first time, but there's definitely something happening. And she said, I'm going to get into the bath. She had come back from a walk with her husband and her toddler. And she's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to get into the bath and just see what happens. And I was like, okay. And which always with the second time mom, when they get in the bath, I'm like holding my phone really tight, waiting for.
We're like, should we have just gone to the hospital instead of getting in the bath? And she's like, it's not real. It's not real.
Exactly. Yeah. And so she did that. And then she decided that she needed something from the store or something. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but she sent her husband.
No, her husband went and walked the dog.
Oh, you're right. That's what it was.
He went and took the dog to the dog park in the evening or something. Yeah. And was walking the dog. And she's like, it's fine.
And he was covered in DEET, because that comes in important in a minute.
Mosquito spray.
He had sprayed all sorts of spray all over himself because it was the middle of the summer, bugs everywhere. This is Texas. Mosquitoes are like the main life form here. So he was covered in bug spray, and she got into the bath. And so she calls me from the bathtub, has not talked to her husband yet, who's out walking the dog, and is like, hey, they're coming really fast. They're lasting, a minute, but they don't feel all that strong. But also I can't stand up. And I was like, oh, you have to get out of the bath. You have to call your husband and you have to get out of the bath. And she was like, well, I don't know. Like, I just don't really know what's going on. I was like, okay, I'm going to come over right now and we got to get you out of the bath. And I was,
we're like, whether you like us or not.
Yeah,
I don't care if we're invited or not.
Exactly. And so I was in the middle of putting my kids to bed. So I quickly was like, okay, love you, bye. And got in my car and started driving. And then her husband calls me and says, hey, I just got home. She said she thinks it's probably time to go to the hospital. So I'm going to hop in the shower because I'm covered in DEET mosquito spray. And then we're going to go to the hospital. And I was like, she needs to go right now. You got to get her out of the bath, get her to the hospital right now. And he was like, well, I'm just going to take a quick shower. And so I was like, okay, I'm coming over right now. We got to get her out of the bath. And so I am on my way. And then he calls me and says, okay, we got her out of the bath. We're in the car. I am speeding to the hospital right now. And I said, okay. So I flipped around. I just turned into the neighborhood. I flipped around and I'm just like,
cheeks hurt from smiling so much because this is so hilarious. We're like, I'm talking to you on the phone, reading you text messages that they're sending because you're driving.
Yes. And I talked to them briefly while they were driving. And then I called Sierra and I was like, we need to call the hospital and let them know that somebody is coming in hot. And I'm driving, so I cannot pull up their number right now. And so Sierra hangs up with me, calls the hospital and says, we have a second-time mom. She is coming in hot to your ER right now. She should be there in the next 20 minutes. And they said, okay, great. And so they were ready to meet her down there. And so I get to the hospital. I have not heard from them if they've made it there. I didn't know if maybe I beat them or if they beat me because we were on two different highways driving to the same hospital. It's a whole thing. And so then I get to the hospital. There's no parking. So I have to go park in the dang garage halfway across the world and then take a shuttle over, which as a doula, hospital shuttles are the bane of my existence. I was never used one. Angry.
I will walk. I'm not.
No, this shuttle driver was a boss. He saw me running down the road. He was like, you want to ride? And I was like, yeah. And so he barely even stopped, did not pick up anyone else. There was somebody else crossing the street. He left them and took me to the hospital. And I get up there and she's in a room. Then she has a baby in her arms. By the time I got there, I walked in probably 5 minutes after them. Apparently they pulled into the ER. They had a wheelchair waiting for them, but there wasn't a nurse there for some reason. And so he wheeled her up to L&D and they got her checked in. And it was a whole crazy thing. And she was so happy, very shell shocked. When you have a fast birth, it sounds so great in theory, but it's also really shocking to experience. And so she was very shell shocked, but it was such a different experience for her.
Yeah.
She was so happy. And it was great. That was a wild experience.
As we're saying this, I'm starting to think back through these people that we're sharing these about, and all but one of them did hypnobirthing, which is interesting. It makes me kind of wonder because sometimes when you do hypnobirthing, we tell you to kind of ignore it until it makes you pay attention to it, right? And second-time moms with odd labor patterns too, of course, that is definitely a factor. But you learn to be more comfortable in the earlier form of labor. And so I think that has a big thing to do with it, is like, oh, well, it wasn't as big of a deal. And then like, until, whoa, okay, all of the intensity is here at once.
Yeah.
Okay.
That preparedness really makes a difference.
It does. It does, because they're like more comfortable with feeling things. It's not not like freak you out mode. We had a girl reach out to us last minute past her due date and just hired one of our doulas. And she actually made her husband stay home from work with her yesterday because she was panicking about, I might have contractions like I did last night and I don't want to have them alone. I was like, honey, it's okay if you have them alone. Like, we had a conversation about, you're not in danger, like, but she didn't feel like she was prepared. Okay. So the next one is, this mom had a fast, well, actually both of mine had fast first births and second births, both of my stories. So the first one was, I'm going to say her name. She wouldn't care. Her name's Kristen. And she had her first birth. She was already she already had hypnotherapy background. Like, she was a hypnotherapist. So she came into my classes, which was actually really fun. I was actually very intimidated about that at first, having another hypnotherapist in my class, but she had some really great insights and shared things with us that I still use. And she was pretty nervous. Like, she had a lot of things leading up to her birthing day that were making her just anxious, not the actual birth, but just life circumstances. And I think that her body was just intuitively telling her, you're going to have an early baby. Like, we need to buckle up, because we didn't realize it. And she was planning an out of hospital birth at a birthing center. And I think that she went into labor at, you had to be at least 36 weeks to give birth at this birthing center, but she went into labor at 35 and 6 days. And because when she came, I'm so bad with my memory, you guys, but because when she came, she was so close to that midnight mark, they were just like, it's fine, and let her stay. And I remember getting the phone call thinking, there's no way that you just went into labor. Like, there's no way that you need me yet. In my head, I'm thinking that, but of course I'm going to go. I'm just kind of skeptical. Like, I wonder what's going on with her. I was a little worried, like, what's going on that she already needs my assistance. And I got there and she was like just about to start pushing already. It was so fast. She might have already been pushing. And I remember, I'm like, earlier in my birthing doula career, and I'm like, oh my God, I almost missed this birth. I hope they're not going to be mad at me. But it's not like I wouldn't come. I still came, but I had to drive. I can't teleport. And so I wish, man, wouldn't that be nice if we could teleport sometime?
We need that, the doula port.
Doulas should just be allowed to, midwives, anybody on call should be allowed to teleport. So, as if it exists and they're just holding it back from us or something. I talk about it like, yeah, give us that.
It probably exists in some bunker somewhere.
Yeah. So she has a baby so fast. And after, I ended up staying a little bit longer postpartum than I normally would. And I remember feeding her jelly beans after her birth, because she just like wanted something. And she had bought these little cute pink jelly beans. I think maybe they were from her baby shower or something. And so I was feeding her jelly beans, and actually the birth photographer got photos of me feeding her jelly beans. So then, remember, you guys, that was like right at 36 weeks. So then fast forward, she has another baby. She's pregnant again, hires me again. This time we're partners. And so this time, again, we don't special, but like, unless I'm at my anniversary dinner with my husband or something, I'm going. And she goes to 36 weeks and she's like, feels overdue now, right? Because she already had an early baby. We're all expecting this baby to be early. And then we're waiting. And then we wait some more. And she had a baby.
And she had a couple she was over 40 weeks, but she even had a couple like false alarms too, where we were like, oh, this is probably it. This is probably it. And then it was like,
I think she even had her husband drive home one day from work thinking like, maybe this is it. So she went to past 41 weeks, I think. And we were all shocked that she was still pregnant. And she just felt like an elephant who was never going to give birth, because it's like, how long am I going to stay pregnant here?
Over a month longer than her first one. That's crazy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. So when she does go into labor with this one, she started feeling just a little bit labory, and we're all like, we're not playing this game. We're going, right? So we went when they were pretty far apart still. And I was like, that's all right. I'll come. I'll hang out. I don't care how long we have to wait. But usually you wouldn't want to go get settled into your birthing space that early, because you don't, you need that hormone flow, whatever. But she was feeling really nervous about accidentally having a baby at home or in the car. So we all went. The birthing center was like, that's totally fine. We can admit you. We were like 8 and 9 minutes apart. Yeah. And she's just like sitting around in the room, sitting on the bed and hanging out. And I was like, no, come on, let's take a walk. No. I think we were like 4 centimeters, but she had been like 3 centimeters for her cervical checks before that. So let's just go on a walk. So we go on a walk, and I was kind of being a little bit of a punk. I was like, no, we're not sitting still. Walk, go. We have to like do something, because otherwise you're just going to go crazy in your head. And we took a picture. I was like selfieing with them as they're walking behind me. And like I have her husband and me and her in the picture. And that baby was born, I think, within an hour of that picture. We were still super far apart waves. And all of a sudden on our walk, it hit her. And she's like, oh, we went back into the room. She sat on a birth ball. I think within 15 minutes, she was crying because she was like, this is really intense. Because again, you think you want a fast birth, but when you have one, it is very intense. You're going through all of those same sensations in a really condensed amount of time. And I'm like, oh, good, I get to doula her. Like, I actually get to do my job. And so she had a baby so stinking fast again. And I fed her pink. She was like, wait, I brought something. And she hands me jelly beans. And she's like, you have to feed me jelly beans again. So we recreated that photo for that second baby. And
so sweet.
It's just so special to have those really great moments with families and to get to be with them. I've had families I've been 3 babies with, which is just the coolest. So
that's kind of just one of like my favorite parts, is just being able to watch these families grow and just experience, like, because there's always, when you go from 1 baby to 2 babies, or even 2 babies to 3 babies, you're like, can I do this? Am I going to love this baby as much as I love my first baby? Like, there's a lot of nerves around that, and just watching their hearts grow every time it's my favorite. I love it so much.
And there's that closeness and that familiarity with us already. Like there is by the time you're at your birthing day anyway, but it's just that whole new level when you've already been there together.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm actually going to change my story. I was going to tell one, but I'm going to tell a different one because I just decided I like it better. Okay. I think it's a fun one to share. So the second one is similar. It was a family I worked with privately. I was also a backup for them the first time, and then they chose to hire us for their second baby. And they were just the sweetest couple. Like, I'm obsessed with them. I think they listen to our podcast, and they're one of my favorites.
I already know who it is. I already know.
That's exactly right. So when they had their first baby, it was an induction. There's a lot of things that didn't go the way that they wanted it to go. And they felt very belittled by the provider that they were with. So second baby, we changed it up. We went with a midwifery practice at a hospital. We had all of these ideas for like how she wanted to go unmedicated. She did a lot of, same thing, a lot of preparing for the second baby. And so when she went into labor, the plan was, as soon as things were kind of picking up and getting organized, as we say, like we don't necessarily need things to be 3 to 4 minutes apart, but once you're seeing that they're organizing, they're, getting a little bit more intense, they're getting longer, all those good things, that's when we want to start thinking about heading in with the second family. So that's what they did. They started organizing. She was getting to the point where she was still pretty chatty, but she was feeling them a little bit stronger. And so she decided to head into the hospital, and I met them up there. They'd been in triage. She was checked. She was like 6 centimeters. And I got up there, and she was just the happiest person. So calm. She was so excited. Like, most of the time when we have somebody who is 6 centimeters in labor, it's a little bit intense. Like, we're not really having a whole lot of like happy conversations, but no, we were just like shooting the breeze the whole time, talking about our kids, talking about like their plans for the summer, all of these great things. And we get moved into the birthing suites at St. David's North, which are wonderful. And we're laboring, and she's just like having a grand old time. Like, we're just having a grand old time. And then at one point she was like, maybe I want to go ahead and try the tub. Like, they're not really feeling too strong, but it's here and I'd like to use it. So let's go ahead and use it. Like, great, let's do that. So we go and we get her in the tub. She sits down in the tub. I turn on some music. We were joking about the music that I played for her first baby. So I turn on some music, and all of a sudden she says, "Oh, I feel pushy. I feel pushy." And I didn't mention this. Her first baby, she pushed really fast, which is also kind of uncommon for a first-time mom. So she pushed really fast for her first one. So I knew that if she felt pushy, this baby was there and we were going to have a baby really quick. So I called our nurse and I said, hey, she's pushy. We need the midwife. We need you guys in here right now. And so nurse comes running in. She calls the midwife. Midwife comes running in. We had a midwife who I really love, but she is very short. And the tubs at this hospital are very, very tall. And we could not get mom out of the tub. We could not get this mama out of the tub because she was pushy. She was right there. So we drained the tub because you're not allowed to deliver in the water here.
Ah.
And so we drained the tub and the midwife was like, it's fine. We're just going to deliver right here in the water. I'm getting so excited. I'm smacking my microphone. We're just going to deliver right here in the tub. The water's gone. It's all fine. But she is trying to like lean down to get to like see and catch this baby. She has a mirror and she's like 5 foot nothing, like so tiny. And this tub has to be at least 3 feet tall. So she has like no room, like that is just not working. So she's leaning in and her feet leave the ground and the nurse reaches back and grabs her legs and is like holding her down while she catches this little baby that comes sliding out, not giving a hoot about anything that's going on here. And then she's just like, I did it, and stands up and gets out of the tub and we go to the bed. And that's that. Like she had probably, I don't know, 5 minutes of like super intense labor where she couldn't talk. And the rest of it, we were just having a conversation. It was so wild. I loved it. It was so great. And they were also happy.
If you guys haven't noticed, like our jobs are the best.
It's so great.
Literal best. Okay.
But we've been joking that we need to have bungee cords in the delivery rooms now for our short midwives.
Oh my gosh. The short midwives do have a serious issue with those little tubs, those poor midwives. And you know what? They still do it because midwives do it in all positions. I love that. Right. All right. Last one. So first of all, this person told their first birth story already on this podcast. I just realized this for their first birth. It was the Ashley and Chase episode. And so go listen to that. So I'm not going to tell you anything about their first birth. All I will tell you is that it was 4 hours and 51 seconds from start to finish. Okay. I'm not talking about pushing.
Seconds.
Sorry, 4 hours and 51 minutes. Did I say 51 seconds?
You said 51 seconds. And I was like, I'm impressed that you timed it that much, but that's great.
Okay, well, that was an edit undo, but I will not edit it out. It was 4 hours and 51 minutes on the first one. So knowing that, we were all on guard a little bit. And I think it was right around 38 weeks. We were super on guard pretty early for this mama because she still wanted to have her birth at the same hospital, even though like they weren't super in alignment with what she wanted to do. You know, unmedicated, hands off, all of that jazz. But she knew what she was getting into. So this time, like the moment she feels anything, we're like, okay, let's go, right? But she went to like an appointment and she got a check and she was it 5 centimeters? I want to say she was 5 centimeters. And we're like, yeah, freaking kidding me. Like not in labor, just chilling. Okay.
Yep.
And when you check a cervix, you're touching the cervix, which riles it up a little bit. So she got a little riled up. Possible that her provider riled it up a little bit extra with a little bit of membrane sweep, but we don't have proof. So she goes home and she's like not really feeling very well. And she's like, I just need to take a nap. And she lays down and she's like, maybe I am having a couple of waves. Like maybe I am. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, well, let's go. Like, should we go? And I think you hopped on the phone with them. I don't remember why.
Her water broke.
Oh, her water broke in bed when she was laying down taking a nap. That's right. And we're like, oh, great. She had been feeling
something. And then after her water broke, she wasn't feeling anything. And we were like,
yeah. Yeah. So, just give your doulas a heart attack. So she really didn't want to have a baby at home or in the car. And she's like, I guess maybe I should go, but like, I don't really want to go until I at least feel something because I don't want nothing to happen if I go to the hospital too early. So she felt a couple of waves and decided, let's get in the car. And in the car, she had a couple of waves that made her hold on to the ceiling. And they get to the hospital, they get checked in. I was meeting them there. I was like, I'm going too. I'll just sit at a coffee shop nearby if you don't need me yet, but I'm going to go. So I decided I was not even going to go to a coffee shop. I was just going to sit in the waiting room. I don't know if you know this, but when I texted them and told them I was in the waiting room while they were in triage and I could come in at any time if they wanted to, they didn't see that. So they thought I was just taking a long time to get there. And finally he saw it. He was like, oh my gosh, no, come back. Yes, like we're in triage. Well, she was GBS positive, so they wanted to give her antibiotics. So we're waiting around on antibiotics and they're doing it, but why aren't we getting her in a room? She's had a fast first birth and she's having some waves and she's on the monitor. And I walk in the room and she's lying there and she does not look comfortable. And I was like, stand up. You don't have to sit here. And she's like, oh, okay. And so we start standing up. And I give her a hip squeeze and she puts her arms around her husband and I'm squeezing her hips. And it's her first standing up wave since she's been to the hospital. And in the middle of the second one, she's going, ah! And I was like, she's pushing. By the way, she was 6 centimeters when she got there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I go out into the hallway and I was like, we're pushing in triage XYZ, like the number. And 8 nurses come and I'm under her with my hands. Sure am, bare hands underneath her vagina, having amniotic fluid fall on me because I'm not letting a baby fall on the floor. And she pushed real fast with the first one. And I was like, we're going to end up having a baby right here in triage. She climbs up on the bed because I at least got her to do that. And they start wheeling her down the hall, straight up running to a regular room. I got it on.
So drama.
It was hilarious. And her husband and I are just walking and I looked over at him. I'm like, isn't this amazing? Isn't she just wonderful? And she's like so calm. And later she was like, everyone was freaking out around me and it was really annoying because I was very peaceful. And she was, and I don't know why anyone was surprised. And we go into the room and we had a baby within 10 minutes. And
I'm surprised
she did amazing. I know. Well, because everyone around her was like disturbing her, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, it could have been a lot faster. I don't know the exact number of minutes, but we calculated it. And I think it was like 2 hours and 48 minutes from first contraction until that.
Which is about right. Out. We tell people second baby.
About half the time.
About half the time. Not always, but sometimes that's about it.
Yeah. So those were so fun. Those births are like wild, everyone run, but such a blast.
So crazy. We have such a cool job. And you know, we always joke like second babies, they're just going to do what they want. They don't really care about us because sometimes it's like this where they're so fast, we don't know what to do, which is why when we're preparing second moms for delivering, we're always like, okay, like let us know anytime you feel any sort of anything. And then please. Us, if anyone, like when my husband can tell you, when I have a second time mom who's feeling any sort of anything, I have my phone and I'm like clutching it, keeping real close track of that. And sometimes it goes really fast and we have to be running. And other times it's just a very gradual, like peaceful sort of thing. And everything works out, you know, exactly as it should. And sometimes they take forever too. So it's just like a total toss up, but I always like to be prepared because if I'm not, then that's when we're going to have one that's like in the car.
Right. For real. Well, we hope you enjoyed our doula stories today and we'll probably do another one of these because you guys are liking them. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us on Birth, Baby. Thanks again to Longing for Orpheus for our music. You can look him up on Spotify. Remember to leave a review, share, and follow wherever you get your podcasts. See you next week.